Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel that takes you deep inside the San Francisco 49ers. I am your host, Jack Hammer, and for today, I want to get into this narrative that we've heard this offseason regarding 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan. And it's just not this offseason, it's been going on for a little while, and it's about Kyle Shanahan's ability, or as some say, inability, to develop quarterbacks. And we're going to start off first with the idea around Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy. There's this narrative running around that Kyle Shanahan didn't develop Brock Purdy, that Brock Purdy just played the same way that he did all the way through his time at Iowa State. And let me go ahead and read a quote of somebody who mentioned this to me recently. He said, "The Purdy dialogue is annoying. He is the sole reason the Iowa State football program was turned around, and y'all are crediting the 49ers for developing him. Laugh out loud. The kid has always been able to play. He's always been a gamer. This isn't new." Well, let's take a step back, because if that is the basis by which you are saying Kyle Shanahan hasn't developed a quarterback or didn't develop Brock Purdy, well, you can say the same thing for pretty much every quarterback in the history of the NFL that's ever been good. You can say that for Bill Walsh and say that he never developed Joe Montana, because if you look at it, what Joe Montana did at Notre Dame is the same stuff that he did as a member of the 49ers. The game-winning drives at the end of the game, the clutch plays, doing great things. He led Notre Dame to a national championship, for heaven's sake. Same thing with Andy Reid. A lot of people around the 49ers really like to point to Andy Reid now as the gold standard of quarterback developers. Well, if you look through the guys that he developed, Brett Favre put Southern Miss on the map back in the 90s. Nobody knew of Southern Miss before Brett Favre came around. Donovan McNabb, what did he do? Look what he did at Syracuse, and then look what he did with Andy Reid in Philadelphia. Patrick Mahomes was doing all the same things we've seen him do as a Kansas City Chiefs in terms of these wild, crazy athletic throws. He was doing all that stuff at Texas Tech. The only reason Texas Tech wasn't winning very much is because they had Cliff Kingsbury as their head coach and they didn't play defense. But as a quarterback, Patrick Mahomes was exceptional. That's why he was taken at the top of the first round when he was drafted in 2017. And you can go on. You can go through the list. Doug Peterson, for example. Doug Peterson is a guy who gets credit for developing Trevor Lawrence. Well, Trevor Lawrence was a guy who I think won the Heisman Trophy at Clemson, won a national championship. I know he did that at Clemson, played at an extremely high level. He's doing all the same stuff there at Jacksonville that he did as a member of the Clemson Tigers. If you want to bring Doug Peterson into it, which this person did, I would say look at Doug Peterson's history in Philadelphia and what happened there with Jalen Hurts before we really want to bring him into this argument. But again, as far as if your argument is these guys did it in college, so he's not doing, he didn't teach him anything new in the NFL, that's same for every great quarterback or every good quarterback that's ever played in the NFL. They usually did it in college, and that's part of the reason why they got to the NFL in the first place. Another example of this is if all of a sudden Trey Lance comes out and he balls out here in 2022 or 2023, or 2024 for the 49ers, and all of a sudden he's playing at an extremely high level. If the argument is that he did it all in college for Brock Purdy, that's why Kyle Shanahan didn't develop him. Well, he shouldn't be given credit for developing Trey Lance either. After all, Trey Lance won the Walter Payton Award for the best offensive player in the FCS in 2019. So again, this whole argument about Kyle Shanahan not developing quarterbacks, it's one of the wildest things that I've heard. And it gets even wilder because I've had another person tell me that when it comes to Kyle Shanahan, he's had some success with different people, but when it comes to with Kyle Shanahan, the big thing is I don't know about Kyle Shanahan being able to teach mechanics or throwing motions. And to that I say, do you have Google? Seriously, it doesn't take very much to find examples of Kyle Shanahan working on throwing mechanics with quarterbacks. For example, Quarterback Collective is one of the more well-known organizations for developing quarterbacks. Kyle Shanahan has spent a ton of time down at Quarterback Collective working with quarterbacks there. Sean McVay has done the same thing. A lot of these coaches that have come from the Kyle Shanahan tree have spent time working at Quarterback Collective. Just this last offseason, Trey Lance spent a lot of time with Jeff Christensen in the offseason working on his mechanics. And one of the things that Jeff Christensen talked about, the key thing that he talked about for the time while he was working with Trey Lance, was helping him use his legs, get a better base, all those types of things. Well, how many times, if you just listen, just take a minute, when Kyle Shanahan talks about quarterbacks, there's all kinds of examples of him in press conferences talking about the importance of the feet when it comes to the quarterback position. Their ability to have a strong base, their ability to be able to throw off platform in the pocket, all those types of things. All the same stuff that Jeff Christensen gets credit for when it comes to his working this offseason with Trey Lance. And one of the reasons that Kyle Shanahan doesn't do that with his quarterbacks, he doesn't have time. When it comes to the NFL, with the way that the NFLPA has set this up, there is a very limited amount of time that the coaches actually get to work with these players on the field. And so now, since with the way that the collective bargaining agreement is, they can't spend a lot of time on the field working on developing these types of mechanics. That's why these quarterbacks, every quarterback across the league, not just the ones from the 49ers, that's why Patrick Mahomes was working with Jeff Christensen. This is why every quarterback in the league goes to an outside quarterback coach, because their team head coaches don't have time to sit and work on the mechanics of the position because their time with them is so limited. So there you have it. And so again, when you hear this discussion around quarterbacks and when it comes to Kyle Shanahan's ability to develop them, I'm just going to say this. Listen to who's saying it. Listen to what they're saying about the quarterback position, because my own experiences with this in the last couple of years, especially since 2021, is that it depends on who they are a fan of when it comes to the quarterback position. The people that are very pro Trey Lance think that Kyle Shanahan can't develop anybody when it comes to that position. And it's just wrong. And so there you have it. Take it for what it's worth. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you could do me a favor, hit that like button for me. And after you do that, please turn on your notifications and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be talking to you soon. Take care, everybody.